Namaste, happy holidays. I'm so happy and grateful to be a part of Children's Hope India and create this delicious, scrumptious dessert. We're making apple pie galettes. This is really like it has the same flavors that an apple pie would have, just that they're very easy to make and you can make individual portions. I'm so excited to teach you one of my favorite desserts. So let's get started. We start off by making the nice, crunchy and soft, tender crust. For that, I have ice cold butter that I've cubed. I'm using around 114 grams, which is 1/4 of a huge cube. And to this, I'm adding flour. You can use all-purpose flour or maida, as you would call it. However, I want to do a combination of all-purpose flour as well as spelt flour. You can use ragi, jowar flour, just so that it gives it a little more depth and it's not as unhealthy. So I'm going to weigh 125 grams. And I'll just do 50-50 of each. So 75 grams of this and the rest will be of the spelt flour. The secret to making a nice crust is really how you incorporate that butter. The butter has to be ice cold and you still need to have chunks of the butter when you knead the dough. So I'm almost there. Perfect. No sweet dessert is complete without using a little bit of salt. So we have just a pinch of salt to just bring all that sweetness together. So I'm adding that salt in there. And then I have 2 teaspoons of sugar, which I'll be adding. And it's now time to do the work. You just get your hands, just make sure every cube of butter is just coated with flour, and then you just want to press, like just squish the butter like that. So there's still large chunks, and you want all that dough to just look like shaggy bits. This is truly the secret to good pie. You see, taking a little chunk of flour and butter and I'm just squishing it. And that's how you go about with all those little squares. When you cut the butter, make sure you're trying to do them as close to the same size, so the whole crust is crunchy, tender, flaky, all that good stuff that goes with yummy dough. I don't want to overwork the dough. I'm almost feeling at this point, I've only worked with it for like roughly a minute, and I almost feel like it's coming together very nicely. You can see that the dough is not, it's still shaggy, and it's not this one large lump, and the butter is still cold, so that's good news. All right, now we're going to bring all this together. We'll just add a little bit of ice cold water. We don't want to go overboard with the liquid. So I'm adding a touch of water. This is really visually, you kind of tell. So I barely use a tablespoon of liquid and I can see that the dough has come together. You see how it's not even taken us 5 minutes to get this dough together. So I don't think you need over 1.5 tablespoons. If the flour is too dry, then yes, you can add a little more liquid. This is a great crust to make if you want to make it dairy-free or even gluten-free. If you want to use a nice gluten-free flour, like cassava flour, that will really work well with this dough. All right, so our dough has come together beautifully. I don't want to overwork it because I still want it to be nice and flaky. So I bring everything together into a ball, and I'm just going to rest this in the fridge for around 20 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up and then rest this. Just before I throw the dough into the fridge, I'm just shaping into a nice square so it's easy to work with when it's cold, so I can just cut a piece off to make my galette. And then I pop this into the fridge. The filling to a nice apple pie should really be enriched with a lot of spices that are warm, like cinnamon, nutmeg, if you want some clove or vanilla, and that's what I'm using today. You could also use a touch of cardamom if you like. I've picked some really nice apples. These are Gala apples. They've got a nice crunch. They're sweet. They also have a slight tang. They're sort of like Kashmiri apples when I taste them, so I picked these. You can also use green or yellow apples that are tartar, so you just have to add more sugar. It's a very, very, very simple filling, but really the beauty behind it is you really want to slice them real thin. So I have cutting them in half. You can also use a mandolin to slice them. So cut them in quarters. I'm just cutting off the core. Oh, I'm also about to add a little lemon juice so it doesn't turn dark. And then I'm just going to go to town getting them as thin as I can. So you see how thin they are. That's what I want. So one galette would probably hold up to 3/4 or half an apple. So one apple is plenty. My bowl of apples are ready for seasoning. Oh, they smell so good. I have a lemon. I'm just using a little bit of the zest for a little more punch and flavor. Just a touch. And then a tiny squeeze of the juice. Of course, watch out for the seeds. Why do I use a little juice? Also because these apples are not as tart, so it gives you a little more acidity. And your apples are not going to turn dark. Just a little touch of vanilla extract. Good quality vanilla extract is important. Don't use those essences. I have some cinnamon powder. This is a fresh container of cinnamon powder. You can also use your own crushed cinnamon. Ceylon cinnamon is amazing. Amazing flavor. Just a tad bit because I want the apples to shine. And then I have some fresh nutmeg that I'm just going to grate right on top. And then we'll just mix this around. And I'm just going to use a couple of different kinds of sugar. I'm going to put a little bit of maple syrup. You can use honey, you can use brown sugar, you can use jaggery, whatever floats your boat. I love the flavor of maple. And I also love the flavor of jaggery. So I'm going to use a little maple. And I don't have jaggery or palm sugar, so I'm trying to replicate that flavor with palm sugar, with my maple. I'm adding a little bit of sugar just to coat the apples. You don't have to go crazy with the sweetness. There you go. You see the apples are nicely coated. Now it's time to fill our galettes. Our dough has rested for a little bit of time. I'm definitely in a hurry to taste the galettes, so I would definitely recommend at least resting for 20 minutes before you use. So I'm just cutting them in quarters. One galette is like one quarter, and I'm going to save the rest and put it back in the fridge. So I want this into a nice, it doesn't have to be a perfect circle because you'll see why. So I've just dusting my work area with a little bit of flour, okay? And then just using my rolling pin to roll this out. It's a very pliable dough. You'll see, nice and pliable. Needs a little bit of flour right here in the middle. And you've noticed that it's not really this nice, beautiful round shape, and that's what's perfect about the galette. It's not perfect, and I don't want to waste too much of the dough. So very, very tenderly pick it up. Just patch this back together because it's cracking. It won't matter. You're not going to see any of those mistakes really. So I have my baking dish ready with a little bit of parchment. I put my dough right in the middle. I'm taking off some little bits that I think are just way too out there. Trying to form some sort of a circle, but it's not really a circle. So now that you can see it, I'm just going to layer these slices in the middle as close to each other. So it's roughly, I see there are 12 to 15 slices. So simple. And it's so perfect for gifting. They look rustic. They just taste so delicious. They're not overly sweet. You don't have that excess amount of, those additives. It doesn't have corn syrup and all the unnecessary stuff. It's just got ingredients that you'll find easily in your pantry. All right, so what I did was I did a double layer, 12 slices underneath and then 12 on top. So if you can see how gorgeous that looks. And then I'm gonna just fold around to create like a little, a border, so none of those juices like slip away. And did you notice that this dish is also eggless, which is so awesome about this dish. There you go. It's a little parcel of goodness. See, it doesn't look as messy, right? So before we pop this in the oven, I want to protect that dough that's just like around all the apple slices. So for that, we'll just use a little bit of fresh cream. Add a little fresh cream, and I'm just gonna brush it around the edges so it gives it a beautiful golden crust. You can also use an egg yolk. I have my brush right here. I'm just brushing the edges. And the edges can get a little more crunchy with a little bit of grain sugar right over the edges. And you can sprinkle some on top too to just caramelize it. So I do like to put a lot of sugar right there. There. Now our galette is ready to go in a 350 degree oven, 350 Fahrenheit oven for 7 to 8 minutes. While I'm waiting for my galette, I can't really wait to just make one. I'm going to move on to make my second one. But while I'm doing that, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I can't wait to taste it, and I would really love if you tried it and told me what you think. And just show me pictures, do whatever you like. Send me an email, send me, DM me on Instagram. It's Aarthi_Sampath. I'm here in New York, chef at Chinese Tuxedo. Come see me if you're in New York. And I'm so happy I'm able to support Children's Hope India. They're just doing a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal job. And I'm just so honored to be sharing a little part of me with Children's Hope India. And I hope you support them as well. Thank you so much.
Go get snow tin. How wrong could that